Hey, Leaf's Garage here. Hey, we're going to begin uncrating a 934 Porsche Transaxle that was just shipped today and arrived. It was delivered to my garage, so let's get started on this. So here is the crate as it just arrived. It was packed really well by Craters and Freighters in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You can see the Crater Freighter logo there with the precautions, the shipping information, a highly constructed, very strong shipping container, which really didn't even need a forklift because the associate who delivered it just used a dolly. It's only about a little over north of 200 pounds. So we're gonna unbox this and then take a look at it. And we're gonna start with an electric drill and then a star fitting. As you can see, I have one pulled here and they fit in these screws really perfectly here. You can see that. So we're just going to take these out, and then there's staples that were stapled in using an air gun. So then we'll just pry those out with a pry bar. So we have all of these star screws taken out. It worked out that these staples were just for the surface, so they didn't need to be pulled. So let's pull the top off and take a look at this 934. Oh, look at that. No oil. I have to add Sweatco 201 to it. Look at that beauty. Isn't she beautiful? We'll get her pulled out of this and flip it upside down and look at those 3 stars that are stamped on it in a minute or so. With the cover off, we now have to undo these star screws here. There's about 8 of them there. And then look at the attention to detail that Craters and Freighters used on this transmission. So the shifting shaft is here, and I told them to keep any weight off of any shafts coming out of it. And they did a marvelous job by padding that and making sure that that's about, that's 2 inches of spacing on this foam pad above the wood. So that's unremarkable. That's very good. So let's get these out. Take a look, and you can see how well secured it is. It doesn't even budge. Very, very little movement. Craters and Freighters did an excellent job on packing this. I told them just to make it tight so that it wouldn't move and have no weight on the shaft. So let's continue this. Here we are finally showing the 934 Transaxle. And I told you that I'd show you why it's a 934. Well, if you look at the stampings here, on the bottom of the case, you can see that as we pan down here, there are 3 factory stars stamped in the casing right there. That indicates it's a real 934 transmission and not a 930 transaxle rather. So there you go. And those are factory stampings from '76 because you can see that they're worn. So this was apparently a spare for a 934 race car, and it's unknown where this was used and when it was used, but certainly there would only have been several dozens of these made because there were only, I think, 27 or 30 934s made, and this apparently was a spare for 934s. So I would suspect that there weren't that many made, so it's quite rare. Essentially, from the framework, it's a 930 transaxle, but the 934, the real 934 transaxle has larger carrier bearings. So there you are. It's a work of art. And I looked at some of the, I looked at the release fork, and there's very, very little wear on it. You can see if I open it up here, you can see there's very little wear on these release forks. And in fact, it was rebuilt recently and never used since it was rebuilt. So the guide tube here is new. The screws are new. Those screws are supposed to be replaced. So overall, you can see almost no wear on those release forks. So it's ready to go. Ready to be dropped in my Porsche. Another comment I wanted to make on this 934 transaxle was that I looked over quite a few of the parts on the external perimeter, and you can see there's a new washer below that bolt. Anything that needed to be replaced was replaced. So it was rebuilt, never used after it was rebuilt, so it's ready to go. And these look like new cadmium plated anodized bolts. Here's the Omega spring container here for the release fork. This is the release fork for the clutch. You can see the fork moving here. So these work entirely different from the 901. The 930s push in to release the clutch, whereas the 901s pull to get the clutch away from the pressure plate. But I believe in 915s is the same as well. So you step on the clutch and the fork comes out and pushes the, actually when you step on the clutch, it pulls the clutch away. So naturally, the release fork is like this in the release bearing, and then when you step on the clutch, it pulls the clutch disc away from the pressure plate. So that's how 915s and 930s work. 901s are exactly the opposite. So overall, once again, ready to go. I'm really satisfied with this purchase. With regard to the foot-pounds for the 934, these, through my readings and what I've been able to find online, these could probably withstand up to 700 horsepower because they were used in 934s, and that would equate to probably just under 600 foot-pounds of torque. Otherwise, I'm intending to throw about 525 or 550 horse on this in an LS3 engine, and that would probably have about 480, 490 foot-pounds of torque. So this will easily take it. If you have a lot of horsepower, if you had a 3.2 or 3 liter turbo engine, like a 930 engine, and you used anything in, like a 915, or even rebuilt a 915 supposedly where it would take on more horsepower, they can only, the ratings I've seen on 915 transaxles is such that they'll only handle up to about 270 horse, just barely 300 horse, but the 930s can take probably up to the mid 400s for horsepower and low 400s for foot-pounds. And this 934, I would guess, would probably reach about an upper limit of 700 horsepower, or maybe potentially more, a little more than 500 foot-pounds of torque. So this is, yes, indeed a beast. It's a tank, and I'm using this with my new LS3 engine, which comes at 430 horse. I'm going to do some modifications to the heads and throw in a stage 2 cam. So there's no way I could have used my 901 transaxle to drive the car with an LS engine. It would just merely disintegrate. And a 915 would have been a waste of money and time as well. So I was rather lucky to find this 934. So it was just a chance occurrence, and I pulled the trigger. So I should be pretty happy with this. I don't really plan on doing Tokyo Drift and burnouts all the time like I did in my SS396 Chevelle growing up in high school, but rather on the freeway, I'll get on it appreciably. So this will be able to handle it. No problem at all.